Welcome. Hi, I'm Mikki, and this is Mikkipedia, where I sit down and chat to doctors, professors, athletes, practitioners, and experts in their fields related to health, nutrition, fitness, and well-being. And I'm delighted that you're here. Morning everyone, hope you've had a great week. It's Mikki here, obviously, you're listening to Mikkipedia. And today on the show, I bring to you a conversation that I had with one of the world's best ultra runners. And it's not just the ultra marathon distance that he excels in, he has excelled across the board during his running career and continues to do so, inspiring so many people, including me. Today, I'm talking to Mike Wardian. So he has so many achievements, it is difficult to list them all. He was the first in the Quarantine Backyard Ultra 2020. He has come second at the 100 kilometre World Championship race, holding records for the 50k and the 100k US National Championships. He has competed in the US Olympic trials 3 times, and he has competed in nearly 300 marathons and over 100 ultra marathons all over the world. And he does it all with such passion and such joy for the sport, all whilst holding down a full-time job and being an active and engaged dad to 2 teenage boys in his family in Arlington, Virginia. So we're talking to Mike Wardian today, and in addition to that, we have a giveaway from Hoka. Mike is a Hoka athlete, and actually I am now a Hoka ambassador here in New Zealand, and I am just so stoked because I have been running in Hoka since 2017 and absolutely love them. So to be able to connect with them and other Hoka athletes is something I truly do not take for granted. Today on the show, Hoka is giving you, New Zealand-based listeners, an opportunity to win one of their new Rincon 3 shoes. So for those of you who don't know the Rincon shoe, it delivers the best cushion to weight ratio on the market and has a redesign that features an asymmetrical tongue, a thinner pull tab, and a vented mesh upper for ultimate breathability. So it melds a multitude of precision details, an impossibly light midsole with aggressive cutouts and enhanced rubber coverage for improved durability. This is a results-oriented running shoe, and it's hyper-focused on weight savings. So one of the questions that I would love you to answer is, what is the weight of the new Rincon 3 shoe in the US 9 size? And also, what was the first marathon that Mike Wardian ran in to qualify for his first Boston Marathon effort? So I'm asking a couple of things of you here. First, to tell me something about the shoe. What is the weight in US size 9? And also, what was Mike Wardian's first marathon that he ran in to qualify for his first Boston Marathon? These things aren't too hard to find out, and those of you who are familiar with the Rincon will be super stoked with the new redesign of it. Now, this is a neutral shoe and it's best for road, just FYI. But that doesn't stop anyone who is interested in winning a new pair of amazing shoes to put their ring in the hat. And so you will find a Google form on my link tree in the bio of my Instagram handle. So click on the button there that says Hoka giveaway and fill in the deets, guys. Right, so please enjoy my conversation with Mike Wardian. Morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hey, so I said good morning in Māori, which is our Indigenous population language. And Mike, have you been to New Zealand?
Yeah, I've been, I feel like 4 times now. Yeah. So yeah, it's one of my favorite places in the world. Like if you guys were willing to accept one more person or one more family, we would definitely take advantage of that.
Well, if you came to New Zealand and then, of course, raced as a Kiwi in all of your races, then I think that would absolutely add value to us as a nation.
Yes, that would be awesome. So I've done Tarawara a bunch of times, and then I've done the Moon Shotover mountain, which was fantastic. That was really, really, really terrific.
Yeah, do you know, it's interesting, Mike. Well, it's not interesting, it's quite funny. Like, as I was writing notes for our podcast, because I'm super excited to chat to you about your running, obviously, I thought, right, I'll just write a list of all of the races that I know that Mike has done and really excelled in. But to be honest, it was too long a list that I ended up, I almost like just looked at it and my brain went, I don't know that I can take all of this in. I had this like, how am I going to do this? So I thought, hey, it's actually just better just to get you to talk me through it. Rather
sure.
than, yeah. But I did know, actually, I as you said, when I said, have you been to New Zealand? Of course I'd known that you'd done the Shot Over Moonlight Marathon, which is an amazing event, spectacular, one that I've always been just too intimidated to do because of the technical aspect of it.
Yeah, I did it I think the week after Tarawara, so my legs were pretty trash, but I'm glad I had some experience with running on that kind of terrain. And I feel like that one, they actually just make it kind of hard for no reason. Like at the end, you run through the river, like it had to be 50 times. Like,
oh yeah.
Instead of like just going on one side or the other, they're like, nope, go to the right side. Nope, go back to the left side. Nope, go back to the right side. But it was,
I know, right?
And your feet are just, trashed full of like pebbles and, but it was terrific. I had an unbelievably fun time, and they did a great job, and the views were second to none, really.
Oh, I know, right? And that's the beautiful thing about so many of the races that we've got here in New Zealand. First, Mike, I want to really chat to you about your running career and how you've managed to stay in the sport as long as you have, and not only stay in the sport but continue to excel in it. But I will kind of kick us off by saying that you are one of the reasons why I was allowed to start a podcast, because when I was chatting to my husband about it, and I'm like, babes, I really want to talk to the experts in the field of nutrition and science and physical activity and athletes that I really admire and that we love. And he's like, well, if you're going to do that, then you're going to have to reach out to Mike Wardian, because
Wow.
he is one of the most amazing people that he's followed in the running scene, because you're very similar in age. You're a year younger than him.
Okay.
And so he sort of, and we both sort of go, oh, what's Mike up to? What's Mike doing? And when we're talking about running and Baz is telling me something, I'm like, yeah, well, what would Mike do? So thank you for your indirect role there, Mike.
Well, that's very generous. I'm glad I could help, and I'm glad that you guys are able to have those conversations and adventures. So hopefully I can keep doing fun stuff, and maybe that is something that you guys can do also, or at least be inspired by.
Oh, absolutely. And when I'm thinking about you and Mike, and what I see, particularly on Instagram, it's like almost your love and passion for running just absolutely comes through whenever you're talking about it. And even on the, in the races that don't necessarily go your way. And I'm just thinking even really recently to the 50K champs that you did, the USA track and field. And like, you were just like, oh, look, my legs weren't in it today. Does it happen to you often? Like, what's the...
Not normally. No, thankfully. That was a surprise. Like I was sure that I wasn't in top form, but I didn't think that I was going to suffer like I did. So, it is actually good to get a barometer of where I was. But yeah, it was it was surprising to me, like, just to get beat up that much by, not a very long distance and a pretty easy course, to be honest. I mean, it's just a 5K loop around like a park, so there's not much vert or anything like that. So like, I was pretty sure that I had, some good endurance, and, I didn't really suffer in that aspect. It was just with the turnover in the legs. And, it was one of those things where I was hoping to do a lot better than I did. And, it was fine. I mean, I didn't run as fast as I wanted, but, I was out there and I was able to finish on a hot day. And, it's one of those things, man. You like the good thing or the bad thing, I guess, is I have a pretty short memory. Like, if it goes really well, I'm like, oh, that was awesome. And if it goes really bad, I'm like, well, it could have gone better.
Yeah. Do you know, I've heard you describe your strategy in and around racing, or choosing the races that you do, only in that so much as you could choose to do one or two key races every year and then spend your time building up to those races, right, and events. And some people might argue that, hey, Mike, if you'd done that, then potentially you might excel more at that particular event. But I've heard you say, look, I just love so many different distances, so many different experiences, that part of the joy of running for you is actually being involved in racing far more frequently than that. So I suppose that's one good thing, is that you might have a bad race, but there will be another race in a week's time or a day's time, with how I see you sort of approach it.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I mean, like, the week before I ran a Guinness World Record in a kilt, and like, that was awesome, but it was, still a marathon. And the week before that, I ran across Zion Park and I set a FKT, and so like, I didn't, traditionally, if someone was going into a big race, they might taper or something like that. And, it's, for me, that's not really what gets me excited and motivated. And so, as you said, I approach it a little bit differently than a lot of people, but, for me, it's worked really well. And I've had a lot of fun. And it's funny because a lot of people will say, like, how can you, keep, being so excited to race and not burn out. And I think that's one of the big things about the way that I choose to do things is, it does keep it exciting for me and keeps me motivated. And it's the reason that I feel like I have been in the sport for so long.
Yeah. And I feel as well, Mike, with the way that you do it, your race results absolutely inspire and motivate people because you are so exceptional at what you do. But I think even more than that is your passion and your love for the sport and what you give to the sport, And I was listening to you talk on a podcast about the Quarantine Backyard Ultra. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you did it like, well, I think, I want to say 263 miles. I might be wrong. But
no, that was about right. Yeah, that was about right. And it's actually, I was like, oh, that was pretty good. But then, like, recently I've seen people just absolutely destroying it, like 300 miles, 315 miles. And so, like, it definitely makes me want to, try to see how far I can go if I get another opportunity. And hopefully I will this year. I think I'm going to get a chance to maybe go to the Big's Backyard Ultra this October. So that'll be fun to try to mix it up and see how far we can go, especially with, some people that are so strong.
Oh, totally. And, I loved how you were describing the ultra, and one of the things you felt you really got out of it was because it was in your own backyard. You were in your, you were just going around in your sort of community. You had your neighbours and stuff come out and be able to cheer you on, and you were like, mate, if I can just get one other person out there beginning to walk more or to try running themselves and that kind of thing, then you felt it was worth it to you. And I just absolutely love that, Mike. It's that real kind of give back to the community.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and it's actually cool because I have had some neighbors that have actually picked up running from that time. So it's been about a year since that, or a little bit more, maybe a year and a couple of months. And there's some people in my neighborhood that have like started running because of that event, and now they're runners. And so like I see them out running, and it's cool that that had an impact on people.
Yeah, for sure. And if I go back to your own beginning in running. As I understand it, it was one of your mates' mothers had qualified for Boston, and she'd gone and done Boston, and you were like, wow, a normal person goes and does Boston. That's what I want to do.
That's exactly right. It was my friend Vince Voisin, and his mom Vicky Voisin was the one she'd actually qualified, and she had come back, and she had her little medal and everything, and we were having Easter together, and that's when I was like, hey, I want to try to do that too. And she was nice enough and generous enough with her time to make a little training pamphlet and give it to me, and I just kind of followed it, and that's really how I started. I mean, before that I'd been running but just kind of a couple miles, and that was kind of the thing that gave me structure and the ability to, kind of gauge where I was, and then, I knew I wanted to run Boston, and I didn't really know that you had to qualify. So once I figured that out, I kind of targeted the time that I needed, and then, just scraped under there like I have done in so many instances with, Olympic trials or, qualifying times in many different things. You kind of figure out what the parameters are and then figure out how you're going to get there.
And is that were your parents they weren't runners themselves, or were they particularly active? Did you grow up in a really active family, Mike?
Yeah, actually my mom was really a great athlete. She was a field hockey and tennis player, like an All-American. Even though she was British, she came in to the US for schooling, and so she was quite good at those sports. And then my dad played a little football, and he was also did a little bit of running. So I did have that from them, but when we were growing up, mostly I played a sport called lacrosse, and that's kind of where I put my time and energy. And there is running in that, but it's not like soccer or something. Well, I guess it kind of is. But yeah, so I spent a lot of time playing that growing up.
Yeah, and so you went on from, you didn't love your first marathon experience, is that right?
No, I did love it. I qualified, but the goal was to run Boston. So I was happy. I made a lot of the classic mistakes like you do in your first marathon. Like I had, bloody nipples, and I ran in just lacrosse shorts, and kind of ran out of steam at the end, but had enough cushion to make it in the time. And then I figured hey, if I train a little more, maybe I can break 3 hours. And so I did that, and Boston got me hooked. Once I went there and saw the crowds and really had that experience, I was like, I want to do this every weekend. This is awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then how did you sort of progress from marathon? Actually, well, it's funny, isn't it? Because oftentimes people sort of start at 5K, at 10K, and sort of work themselves up, whereas you sort of go in at marathon, and then is it ultras after that? How does that sort of look? Or were you...
Yeah, I mean, sorry to interrupt that you're almost exactly right. I started with wanting to run the Boston Marathon. I think I did a half marathon leading up to it, but no 5Ks or 10Ks or anything like that. And then once I ran Boston, I decided I was going to run all the big marathons in the US. So Chicago, New York, Marine Corps again. And then I did all those, and they were all, I think those 3 marathons were in 4 weeks or 5 weeks. And so everyone was like, oh, you're crazy. You can't do that. You're going to get hurt. You're only supposed to run a fall and a spring marathon, maybe. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. And I noticed each one I got a little bit faster, and then it was just random as far as the 50 mile. My dad, Dick Wardian, he had seen a ad for, it's funny because I was just emailing with this guy, Scotty Mills. He used to own a store in the DC area, one of the Fleet Feets. I think it was Fleet Feet. And, he had a talk about the JFK 50 miler, and my dad saw it, and he was like, you won't believe it, but you can run 50 miles. And I was like, what? I don't think that's true. And so I went to this talk, and Scotty was talking about how, like these guys run a little over 6 hours for 50 miles. And I was like looking at my time because, since I think I ran 3:06 or 3:08 my first marathon. And then the next marathon I was like 2:54 and then like 2:40. And so I was like, well, if you just take my time and double it, I'm going to totally win this 50-mile race. Like that's just like going to happen.
It's just maths, right?
Yeah, it's just math. Yeah. And so, of course, that did not happen, but I did sign up for it and do it. And I was like, wow, that was really hard. Much harder than I thought. And it was one of those things too, where I didn't believe, like when I first started running, I was like, oh, it's only you and what, is in your body. And I thought it was like cheating to like take gels and like drink. So I've come a long way, now I have all these awesome sponsors and hydration companies like Nathan and Goo.
Yeah.
And, but like when I first started, I was like, no, it's just you and whatever, you start that you shouldn't like minimal drinking, like, it should just, be as hard as it possible. And it was just dumb. So
it's like, it's like, how can you suffer as much as you possibly can? And what does that tell you about your worth as a runner? The more you suffer, the harder you are.
Right. It's almost like, I don't know if you've ever seen the British guys that do like Marathon des Sables, but like those, I feel like there's like a rite of passage, and I don't know if it's the same with like the Kiwis that go, but like I feel a lot of those guys like make a bet in a pub and then don't really train and then like, and it's like a point of pride that they didn't train and they just suffer like for a week. And those guys are some of the hardest, baddest mothers I've ever seen. But like if they would have just trained just a little bit, they would have had a much better experience.
Oh, totally. Have you read David Goggins' Can't Kill Me? Mike, are you a reader?
Yes. I love reading. Yeah. And he's somebody that, it's weird. Our circles like go like this, and I've done like his challenge and stuff, but like we haven't really connected in a sense. But man, his book was unbelievable. It's funny because I'm working on a book now, and I would like it to be half as good as what he wrote, for sure.
Well, Mike, that's super exciting that you're working on a book. Like, that is awesome. I had no idea, and maybe I'm just ignorant. Probably am.
No. It's actually, I haven't told a lot of people, so it's just it's funny. My wife Jennifer and I are working on it, and she's actually just like bought a laptop to like start like really working on it. So it's hopefully it'll be motivating, and it'll be cool to put down some of the stories.
Oh, 100%. And then if I think about Goggins, like I think pretty sure that he did like his first 100-miler without actually training. Like I think he signed up on a Tuesday and did it on a Saturday or something like that. And
yes.
Yeah. So that's, it's almost going back to what you were saying about the Brits who did the Marathon des Sables and whatnot, that how much can you truly suffer? Mike, even though that you do a lot of racing, I want to ask you about what your training looks like. As I understand it, though, you haven't really had a lot of time out being injured in your running career. I mean, most recently, I believe you injured yourself during a Spartan race.
I totally did, yes.
Yeah. Is that like one of the only times that you've really been out for injury across, all of these years?
Yeah, so I guess I started running in 1996, so it's been about 25 years, and I'd say I've had a couple bouts of serious injury. The first was 2012. I had 5 stress fractures of my pelvis and 5 hernias, like simultaneously. And that took me out from, it was kind of similar timing. It took me out from, September, October till January of 2012, and I started racing again in 2013. And that was weird. I had to have surgery for the hernias, and then I had to let the stress fractures heal. And so I did a lot of aqua jogging and that kind of stuff. And then this last bout of injury, I hurt myself October of 2020. So a little over 6 months ago, and that was pretty bad, actually. I herniated some discs in my back, and I thought like, oh, maybe this is like, the end of my running. And so when you're saying like, oh yeah, the 50K didn't go as well as you were hoping, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I didn't even think I was going to be able to maybe walk again. So like, I
had no idea. I didn't.
Yeah.
When I heard you talk about your injury, I had no idea it was as bad as that, because you almost seemed to kind of go, I sort of injured myself in October, but was back running in like December. So, yeah.
So I started running again at kind of the middle of December on the Ultra G, and then did tons of physical therapy and got a couple of shots to reduce the inflammation, and that was really the trick. Once you get the inflammation down, it was pretty straightforward. Like the pain was something like I'd never experienced. Like I thought I had a good handle on pain, and that was nerve pain for anyone that suffers from it, or I hope that you can find a solution, because it was debilitating for sure. And so like, that's why, the race wasn't as great as I was hoping, but
Mate, it was amazing you were able to run.
Yeah, no, it's been cool. Like I've already run 100-miler back in March, and so like it was funny because like the whole race they're like, oh, he's like 20 minutes ahead of you, and I'm like, I'm just happy to be out here. Like I'm just so happy just to be running. Like you don't even, like I have no aspirations other than I just want to get to the finish line. So like so it's been good to like be able to come back from that process and like kind of see like the endurance coming back, and now I'm starting to build back some speed. And like this last weekend I did a couple 5Ks and got the legs turning over, and didn't have any repercussions from anything that I've been doing. So I'm really hopeful that bodes well, and I have like Hard Rock coming up, so that'll be a fun big day in the mountains. And then the fall is going to be pretty crazy. At least it looks like it is, based on everything I'm seeing, with a bunch of events, and so it should be pretty awesome. But yeah, so it's a gradual build back up from a pretty serious injury, and I'm really happy with how my body's responding. And I think a lot of that just goes to like, according to the people that I was talking to, and I did a lot of stuff with like one of my sponsors, MedStar, and they're saying like for most people, this is a pretty serious injury, but it's not like, and I think that's what's cool about what we do is, as runners and endurance athletes, like we have all this built up, fitness that, is, helpful, if you do get hurt, like you're not, in a bad position, and, the recovery goes much, much faster. And so like, I feel like that's what's happened for me.
Mike, what went through your head when you sort of had those thoughts of, gosh, this could be it for me with regards to running? Like,
it was disappointing, man. Like I still have so much I want to do. So like, that'd have been really tough. But then it's like one of those things where it's like, well, if I can't run, I'll find something else. Like, I'm sure you probably get that too, is like the people that don't know running are like, oh, how do you run that much? Like, how, what are you going to do? Are your knees like destroyed? And, you're like, no, actually I'm completely fine. I'm probably in, a much better position than most people. And so it's, I would just probably find something else to do. There's plenty of other activities, and, I have a lot of different passions. So like, but it would definitely try to find something that would, fulfill that kinetic drive that I have.
Yeah, for sure. And I was chatting to a sports psychologist yesterday actually about how there's something particularly special about exercising in nature with regards to mental health and mental well-being, because we were sort of just talking about what draws people into endurance sport, and particularly something like triathlon or ultra running, which takes a special sort of individual to not only to go out and do the events, but to actually sort of, front up day in, day out and do the training that it takes to do the events. And it's almost like a bit of an outlet. And I always feel particularly grateful coming back from injury, being able to do just even a 20-minute run when, prior to injury, I might have been running for like 2.5 hours for a long run, and then, back to being 20 minutes and being like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I was able to experience that. I'm so grateful for that. That's a nice feeling.
Oh, it's the best, man. And it like it there, and when you're really hurt and you're like, man, I just want to do like my bread and butter run, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it
Yeah.
just like a 10K would be nice. Or like I have like a 8 or 9 mile run like around DC, and it's probably one of my favorite runs in the world. It goes by like the monuments, and you know, it's just it's stunning, and it's like yeah, it's it's a run I've probably done a million times, and it's funny because it looks kind of phallic on Strava when you do it, but it's like it's still like one. This is one of my favorite things in the world, and yeah, I'm just happy that I can do stuff like that, and to be able to go out there and put myself in in nature, and to have the chance to do incredible things and see stuff like and I don't know if you may have seen this, but a couple of weeks ago my brother, sister, and I ran across Zion National Park, and like we've been talking about that for maybe 5 or 6 years, and we just have never made the time to do it. And I was like, this is like, and that's kind of what I did the first time I was injured. My brother and I ran across the Grand Canyon, the rim to rim to rim, and so like you know, those are the things where you know, with COVID and the situation in the world, you know, things were finally opening up, and I was like, I don't want to miss out on these opportunities, like, because who knows, you know, you could, you know, be hurt and never be able to run again. And so like I made the time to do that with my family, and it was probably one of the most special runs I've had.
That's amazing. And you've achieved so much, Mike, with regards to your running biography. Like, it is unreal, because it's not just the really super long distances. You know, you've had like a 2:17 marathon you've run in your past. You've done 50K, you've done 100K, and you've really excelled at these.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's you really had that sense of just wanting to get out and get amongst it with the running as well, you know, and it's the participation and stuff, which is just as important to you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you know, there's only one person that wins a race, and like, that's cool. But like the chance to be out there and see people do incredible things, and to be a part of that, and to go places that I've never been before, and kind of experience it under my own 2 feet. Like, I feel like, you know, you were saying like, I've been to New Zealand so much, and I'd say probably one of my most favorite runs in New Zealand was, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on it now, but it's like one of the famous routes, the root burn, right?
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah, and I did that a couple days after doing Tarawara, and it was just like me, and it was funny because I think Magdalena Bollet was like going the other way or something, or we were like, we weren't together, but we were kind of like, and so, anyhow, yeah, it was, for me, it was like those type of experiences, like, or just, once I did a race in Ethiopia, and I was just, you know, I just had landed off of like a 14-hour flight, and I just went for a run, and I was like, oh, I'll just find my hotel. It's like a mosque, you know, I can't get that lost. And of course, like, there's mosques everywhere, and I couldn't find my way back. But I spent like 3 hours running around the city, and I don't think there's anything better than, you know, just being able to get out in a new place and put your shoes on. And, you know, by the time you get back, you know where the bank is, you know where the subway stop is, you know where the bakery is. You know, like, kind of what part of town maybe not to go back to, or like, you know, where you can take the kids. And so like, that's been cool.
Oh, totally. Now, Mike, so you've had so many amazing, from the sounds of things, amazing experiences and races. Is there any race that particularly sticks out that you've really not enjoyed?
Let's see. I'd say there's races that I haven't had a great experience. Like, most of the races I do in China, I've had really bad experiences just because I get sick. And so like, the race courses are awesome. The people are amazing. Like, my runs have just been trash. Like, I've been like sick to my stomach. Like, I did this race called the Ultra Gobi, which was super cool. It was like a self-supported, like, you have to like GPS track the whole thing, and it was 400 kilometers, and it took me like should have taken like 3.5, 4 days, and it took me like 5.5 days, or a little under 5 days. And I just felt like I was sick to my stomach for the first like 3.5 days. Like it was just like chafed raw. Like it was just a messy, disgusting, terrible time. And so like, yeah, that's a race that sticks out as just being like, oh, that was trash. It was my own. Yeah. I just something I eat. Like I thought I brought everything to avoid that, but I didn't.
So, Mike, if you're in that sort of situation, is there any part of you that thinks, oh, look, I might as well just bin it?
Yeah, for sure. Like I was like one aid station away from, because I had run out of chafe cream, because I'd used all my toilet paper like within the first like 30 minutes of the race, and like and so like a day and a half in, I was like, I really like I was like yeah, I was in really bad spot. And it was so weird. I was trying to explain like I need like diaper cream like to the guy at the aid station, and he had no idea what I was talking about. But it was just so lucky that the organizers were at this random aid station in the middle of the desert, 50K from anywhere, and one of the medics was there, and he had some diaper cream, and I swear that saved my race. But if they weren't there, I was just gonna lay there until someone came. And yeah, so like, but like I didn't think like I actually did drop out of a race in China like maybe the year before that or something, just because of the same thing. Like I was just so sick to my stomach. I was like, and most of the time if I drop out, it's mostly because like I'm not so worried about me, but like it was like really tight, and so like and it was like kind of out and back, and I was just in a bad spot, and I was like, I'm gonna knock someone else off the trail. And so like you know, that's been, yeah, most of the time that's what it is. Or like I couldn't, like I think I've dropped out of maybe like 7 or 8 races total, but one was, I also dropped out of a race in Greece, the Spartathlon, because like somehow in Greece in September I got hypothermic and was so chafed. But yeah, usually yeah, but like it's funny because like now I have like this whole like protocol like to avoid chafing. Like I work with like squirrel's nut butter, which is awesome. So I always have like a bunch of that on me, and so like yeah, I have like a whole protocol. But yeah.
And so Mike, I've mentioned your longevity in the sport a little bit, and I've heard you say that it's your love for the sport that sort of keeps you in. But what other things help safeguard, I suppose, you in running outside of the fact that you just love it? Like what in particular do you do maybe every day or week on week that allows you to continue to run?
Well, I think, and especially people that follow me on social media, they probably see like I do a lot of strength training now. So probably in the last like 4 or 5 years. So I'm doing like lots of like prehab, lots of strengthening, lots of and even in like during quarantine, I started doing like CrossFit-y type stuff, and so that's been super fun to like get into that aspect of it, and I feel like that's made me like much more resilient, much stronger, and much more flexible, which is weird to say. Like most of us runners, or at least I was not very flexible, and I'm still not very flexible compared to like flexible people, but I'd say I'm way more flexible than I was, and I mean that's really what matters. So I think that's pretty good. I feel like I have really good support from my family and friends, so like they're like, oh, that's the runner guy, and so like there's not a lot of pressure to take away from that, right? They know that this is like really important to me, and so like I have like a good community around me. I think that's important. I feel like having, and this is going to be a plug for my sponsors, but like having people that support you to allow you to, go to the races, do the training, travel, get the physical therapy when you need it, or see a doctor, or like, I was lucky I worked with like a hospital group. And so like, they got me in this group, MedStar Health, and they got me into their people that work with like the professional athletes in the area, right? So like the big NBA team or the NHL team in the DC area. And so like to be able to see the, best doctors is is really helpful. And so yeah, so I feel like having a good support system, and then even like I'm a owner of an international ship brokerage, and to have like my partner be supportive of, you know, my extracurricular activities, and then my clients also, like that's really important. They're always like, oh, what race are you going to now? Like, did I catch you running? Like, I'll be, you know, someone will want to call, and I'll be like, oh, I know them well enough. I can just take it on a run, you know, or something like that. So like, having that, amount of people that are interested in and supporting what I'm doing, I think if I didn't have that, it'd be very, very difficult.
Yeah, like everything that you said there, I absolutely agree with. Like, there are so many factors that you've enabled sort of to, as part of your life, to allow you to continue to do what you do. And the if I just revisit the CrossFit and the Spartan stuff, it's super unusual for a runner to also do those kind of things, because, you know, for me as a runner, like, I try and protect myself. I've got the self-preservation mechanism, which means that I'm very conscious of not doing things which I think, well, gosh, if I do that and I get injured, and I'm injured doing something I don't really, you know, what I sort of like, but I don't love, then I'm not able to run. I'm just going to be a bit like bummed out by that. But I've got to say, I've seen you do your CrossFit stuff on Insta, and not only do I find that inspiring as another runner, but it's just really fun as well. Like, and I'm rubbish. I have very light weights. I move very slowly. My burpees are actually more about the 6-stage movement rather than this really fluid type thing. But I agree with you. I love doing it.
You should check my burpees out today. My burpees today are trash. But yes, like, so you can feel good about your burpees.
I feel as well the CrossFit community, runners are really unique, and our community is unique, and it feels really lovely to be part of that. And the CrossFit has its own community and support network and stuff like that too. So I feel like there's a lot of kind of similarities with that, which might draw people to CrossFit who might also be drawn to running. I'm not sure. Apart from that idea that, you know, that you might injure yourself.
Yes, yeah. Well, and that being said, like, I haven't done any real CrossFit. Like I do it with my friend Tom, and so like I haven't gone to like a CrossFit studio where I feel like maybe I would end up like where I push harder than I should because I'm like trying to keep up with everyone, you know? And so like being a competitive person, like I feel like that might get me in trouble, but like I am kind of open to that. So like I've been like, I have a really awesome gym here at where I am in Rehoboth Beach in Delaware called Rise or Train at Rise. And it's been fun to like, you know, mess around there. And so like I'm hoping that I can, you know, find some people to partner up with and do some fun stuff.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And likewise, I've only done CrossFit stuff in my gym, so I'm just a bit of a hero there. And I always
you've got all the
top.
records. Yeah,
exactly.
You're the leaderboard leader. Yeah,
exactly. Hey, now, Mike, so I'm a nutritionist, and I'm always super interested to hear, you know, how people approach their nutrition with regards to just the everyday nutrition, and also, of course, their training and racing. And as I understand it, you are a vegan who does eggs and honey. Is that a good description of how you might eat, or have you evolved, or what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I guess it's funny because like I think of vegan, I feel like that's pretty strict. Like that's like, you know, no eggs, no honey, like no leather. And so I wouldn't say I'm vegan. I'd say I'm vegetarian, and I eat eggs and honey. And so like, or like the trendy thing people are saying now is like, I'm a plant-based athlete, right? And so like, and so yeah, for the most part, I'm eating, you know, vegetables and fruit, and if you follow me on social, you probably see like I eat a lot of almond butter and honey and oatmeal. And so like so I work with some awesome companies like Stoked Oats and Big Spoon Roasters that supply me with the stuff that I love to eat. And now I have my own like beehive. So hopefully, like, I don't know if I'm going to get like honey this year, but hopefully next year I'll have my own honey. So like, that'll be pretty awesome.
That is awesome. And have you always been vegetarian, Mike, or is it something you've just done sort of in your adult years?
Yeah, actually, so I picked up, I stopped eating red meat in high school. So like in the early 90s. And then I stopped eating chicken and shellfish and seafood in, college. So like right around the time that I found running. And then I went all the way to vegan and then came back to eating eggs and honey. And so like, so I've probably been, vegetarian for over 25 years also. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does a typical day's food look like for you, Mike?
I can tell you what I had today.
Go on.
And it's pretty typical. Like I had, some kind of bread, with almond butter and honey on it. Sometimes banana. And then I had a bowl of oatmeal, with, blackberries, like basically like a whole pint, like, like, so a whole pint of blackberries and a banana and a half. And that was breakfast, and then just water. And then let's see, for lunch, I had, what did I have? Oh, I had, like a pita, with, tomato and, I guess do you guys call it rocket, or is it just, we just call it
rocket.
Lettuce?
Yeah.
So yeah, tomato, rocket, and then a bunch of hummus. And that was kind of lunch. And then, I just had like a snack with some like crackers and more hummus. So yeah.
Delicious. So obviously you like lots of really good, healthy and food, which is awesome. Any supplements that you take, Mike?
Not really, not at the moment. So like I've worked with a company, I work with Goo, so like they have some products, that I've used in the past, but mostly it's just whole food, natural stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, no real supplements at the moment.
And when it comes to training, do you take nutrition with you on long training runs?
It depends how long. So I'd say most of the time, no. So if it's up to like 3 or 4 hours, and then if it's much longer than that, I'll take like an almond butter and honey sandwich. I'll take some like goos with me. I'll take some like little packets of like nuts or something like that. And it depends too on like pace and like if I'm in the mountains or if I'm going to be on the roads or where I am and what I'm doing. But yeah, and then just kind of like, I'll have like a vest on with some water. But yeah, most of the time, if it's up to like 20 miles, I'll take nothing for the most part.
Yeah.
And I'll run fasted. Just because that's, I feel like it's nice to get those runs in. And if you feel bonky or whatever, then you just got to power through it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your body responds as well, right? So once you do start like, oh no, I'm hitting the wall, you just wait 15 minutes, then your liver's like, okay, good. Got this glycogen, getting it back into your bloodstream, this glucose. What about racing? So obviously it's going to differ. It's going to differ, right? Depending on whether you're running a fast marathon versus you're out in a mountain for 8 hours. But do you have it in your head that you're going to be structured around your nutrition or anything like that?
Yeah, for a marathon or like 50K, it's mostly like some kind of like calorie dense like mix. So Goo has like Roctane, or there's other products. And then I'll take gels. So I'll take like a Goo every 4 miles. So I guess for you that's maybe every 6Ks or so.
Yeah.
And so like I'll do that for up to like 50K or so. If it gets much longer than 50K, or if it's like a mountain race, then I'll add in like a sandwich, I'll add in some avocado, I'll add in some soup. And especially if you're going slower, right? Like, so if you're trying to go super fast, it's like easy to eat super fast stuff like gels, maybe chomps, or we have like Goo has chews, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like those stroopwafel type things, right? So like super engineered foods that are easy to eat. And then again, if it's like longer or slower, then I'll add in like avocado with salt, coconut water, almond butter and honey sandwiches again. Like it's basically like I eat like I do normally for the most part. Like sometimes I'll have like, oatmeal or like applesauce. Like they make these really like easy like applesauce packets that you can get. But yeah, it's super simple.
Yeah, and it is really whole food based, which is great, and maybe in part that's one of the things that could have kept you in the sport for a little bit longer. Is it seems like you focus on that really good nutrient dense type food, right? Where
I try to, that's what I had for my wife makes this awesome like barley soup. So it's like a gazillion vegetables, and that's what I had for lunch. I was like trying to remember, but that's exactly what I had. Yeah, you were right. It's like squash and zucchini and carrots and like barley in a vegetable broth. Yeah, it's really good. Like, it's weird, though, because it's really, really warm here, and her friend was making fun of her for making something hearty, and I was like, oh, I just ate it cold like gazpacho, but it was great.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah.
And what about your training, Mike? So how do you fit it in? And obviously there's a little bit of flexibility with your work, because you can literally work and run at the same time if required. But
sometimes, yeah.
yeah. So day in, day out, you say you train fasted, so I assume that's like a morning training session.
Yeah.
Is that sort of how it works for you, morning, or is it afternoons as well? And how do you have a particular mileage that you might hit week in, week out?
Yeah, so it's like being at the beach, I've been waking up later, but normally it's like 4:45 or so. And then I usually am doing a CrossFit workout with my friend, or like a functional fitness workout, and then I come back and run after that. At the beach, I've actually inversed that a little bit, so I've been running around 6:37 or so in the morning, and usually that's like 8 to 10 miles, and then I'll go and do like a workout later in the day, and so like that's kind of what I've been doing. But for maybe the last like 15 or 20 years, I was doing a lot of just run commuting. So like, now I work from home, but like I would just run like 10K to the office, 10K back, and then do something at lunch. So like that's something that it's been weird. Like I haven't been doing that kind of double as much. But that's something like I'm planning to get back to, like, because I feel like that was actually a really good distance. Like it's not super long, but it's been nicer to get some longer runs in the morning. So like I feel like it's kind of a balance, right? And so so I'd say as far as like weekly mileage, I'd say I've been less since I've been coming back from injury. So before I'd say it was probably like 70 to 110 miles a week. So like that's a little over 100K to like, I don't know, 160K or so. And then since the injury, I've been more like 60 to, I think my max has been like 110 miles.
Wow.
So yeah, but I've been taking it pretty carefully with the build up and coming back from the injury. And so like, yeah, I'm planning to get back to bigger mileage, because next year my big goal is to run across the country. So I need to lay down some serious volume between now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it should be awesome. I'm so excited for it.
Oh, I would be too. And because you're obviously, you will know of, if not friends with, Zach Bitter, who is he's preparing for his transcontinental run in September, and I've been following just his podcast and stuff, and listening to how he's kind of approaching it week in, week out. And there is something special about the likes of you and Zach, and I would put Camille Heron into this category as well, of just your ability to absorb, for the most part. Obviously you're coming back from injury right now, but for the most part your ability to absorb like quite high mileage is I feel almost makes you a bit of an outlier with regards to being able to do that, because not a lot of us could probably be quite so, or have quite the same mileage and get the same benefits from it, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I definitely need to build back up. Like
Yeah.
it's been gradual, but it's it's something that I I really enjoy it. So it's actually hard not to do as much
Yeah.
miles.
Yeah.
But it's been I think the probably the right approach this time.
Yeah. And Mike, so injury aside, how has your training sort of evolved over the years? You know, if you've been running since like mid 90s to now, like has it changed a lot outside of the injury, or have you been pretty consistent with your method and approach?
I'd say it's actually changed quite a bit. Like I'd say when I was younger, I would try to hit triple digits like every week, no matter what.
Yeah.
And now I'm a little bit more like, since I got hurt in 2012, I'm a little like, well, if I'm got a niggle or there's something, going on, like I'm much more willing to be like, okay, that's cool. Let's just stay healthy. And so like, I feel like, I'd rather, um, yeah, I'd rather run less miles and be able to run than, have like a bunch of like 100-mile weeks and be completely on the side of the road, not able
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
anything. And so I'd say that's evolved. And then the strength training, like I just never did that before. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to run and that's all. And so like adding in cycling and strength training, I say, is the biggest difference. And I really noticed like there's the delta or the difference between, when I was doing, just volume and what I'm doing now is not that great for what I'm doing, right? Like if I was trying to run like a sub 217 marathon, like I might have more of an issue with like, hey, you're not, you don't have as much high end speed and endurance. But like for like the stuff where I'm just going out and grinding in the mountains, or I'm just going and running for a long time, like it hasn't seemed to impact me that much. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm
That's
way
awesome.
stronger at the longer stuff now than I ever have been. And I've really kind of figured out, and I'd say like the nutrition also, like that's something like before where if I'd run for more than like, 7 or 8 hours, I would just start throwing up. And I feel like I've really, really done a much better job of, handling my stomach and being able to keep going for really extended periods of time and really have a better feel for like what I need to do. And I'd say also like my self-reliance has grown. And so
Mhm.
like I'm much more comfortable just going out on my own with like whatever I need and just being like, oh, okay. I mean, and I think I have to thank Laz and the people at the Barkley marathons, like, because, they don't come get you. Like
No.
there's no safety net. And so, yeah, and also like I have to thank the guys at FKT because I've started doing so many of those, and I think I have over 20 or something. And those, you kind of have to plan them yourself, you have to
Mm.
coordinate it all, or you just do it on your own. And so like, it's just made me much, more well-rounded as an athlete.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I feel like I got that sense of that sort of well-roundedness, even just looking at the different events that you do, the Spartan racing and stuff that you've done in the past. Like you seem to not shy away from sort of putting yourself out there to challenging
To
yourself in
fail.
these run. Yeah, yeah, but like it's such a cliche that people say, you need to, in order to succeed, you need to fail over and over and over again. And I mean, who knows, I would absolutely agree to a lot of that, but I love that even though you're competitive, and oftentimes when people are really competitive, they're a little bit, well, they can be scared of failure, but that might not necessarily be you, Mike.
Right. Well, I mean, it's fun to do stuff that you're good at, right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's, if, and especially if you want to see how good you can get, right? Like, so like, and maybe that's why you have that sharp focus on something. But like, I do think that there's room for, running in costumes and like doing a Spartan race, or like I don't really drink, but I'm gonna do a beer mile in a couple weeks because like my friend hasn't done one, and why not? It'll be fun. And so like, I think there's definitely a time and place for everything, and if you can, find something that gets you excited, then I don't eat donuts. And a couple weeks ago, I did like half marathon where you ate like 13 donuts to raise money for charity. And so, yeah, actually, that's another thing that I've been doing more of is like trying to use my running to help people. And so like I've done a lot of more charity type stuff, and I hope that I can continue to do that. I feel like that's a great way to do something that you love to do and help somebody in the process. Like that's a win-win.
Oh, look, 100% agree with you. And with regards to the running in costumes, because obviously, I think, are you the fastest person to win a marathon dressed up as Elvis Presley or something like that?
That is true. That is true. But there is a guy that's beaten my record by about a minute, so I need to get it back. So that's on my list of things to do.
Well, do you know, I'm surprised that you haven't tried, and maybe you have, but I'm pretty sure the last time I looked in Guinness Book of Records, which admittedly was a number of years ago now, someone had dressed up as an orange and ran a marathon in 4 hours 30, and they were apparently the fastest piece of fruit to run a marathon. And I was like, really? 4 hours 30? Surely I could like dress up as a banana and like kick that record, but I have yet to actually do so. So, if you're looking for other things.
Man, you should. That is, I feel like someone has done a pretty fast banana marathon, but like there's and I have a friend that has like this cool Steelers Mexican wrestling one, so I want to do dressed up as a Mexican wrestler. So that's definitely something on my list.
Oh, so awesome. Now, can we just finish up, Mike, and you tell me about your big goal for running across America? Like, what does that actually entail?
Well, hopefully, it's going to happen in 2022. So I was hoping to do it in 2020, and then the pandemic happened, and so I didn't do it then. And then, I was hoping to do it this year, and I realized that, with my responsibilities at my job that I just need someone to help me. So we hired somebody. So like, I'm getting that person trained, my friend Mark. So thank you, Mark. And so hopefully, by next year, there'll be, a support system in place for me to be able to disappear for a little while and, achieve this goal that I want to do. And so I want to run from, somewhere on the West Coast, probably San Francisco, to, right here on the East Coast, in Delaware, I think. And so, and I haven't really chosen the route because I'm trying to figure out, like, I need to get sponsors for it. I need to, like, plan the route. And it's really hopefully going to be a culmination of everything I've learned over the course of my career. So, like,
amazing.
Running big miles each day, navigating, terrain, and, working with your crew, because it's like one of those things where it's like you can't only go as long as you have people that are willing to support you. And so like I got to try to figure all that stuff out. So now you made me like want to listen to Zach's podcast, because maybe he's figured it out better than I have.
Well, no, he's just further down the line of doing it, right? So he's just a year ahead of you. So you should absolutely kind of hook into that. And and you probably also need like a film crew to do some sort of Netflix documentary, because I would love to watch the entire process. Would be so awesome.
Yeah, I feel like that would be really cool, like to have somebody chronicle it, just because I feel like when I ran across Israel a couple years ago, having Ian Corliss there, it really captured the imagination of people, and I think made it more real for people, because, it's going to be one of the most incredible things I think that, anyone, that I've talked to that's done it says it's life-changing, and I hope it is for me too.
Amazing. And, Mike, outside of that, following your journey, I feel for a lot of people provides the same thing for them. Like they guess, like, we are so inspired by you and what you do, because you are like a professional runner who isn't actually a professional runner, in the sense that you have a full-time job, you have a life, you have a family, you have other things outside of running, but you manage to sort of do it all, and your enthusiasm for it is so inspiring. So I'm really excited to see how you develop your idea, and then of course going on and following that across the next year or so. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it'll be cool. It's kind of a lifelong dream, and so like to to even just start it. Like, my goal is to make it across, but like just to, go and put my feet in the Pacific Ocean and then, hopefully get my feet to the Atlantic Ocean. Like, oh man, so can't wait to be like Forrest Gump. Man, it's going to be awesome.
It will be so awesome. And then maybe one of your sons or both of your sons might join you on a few legs of the
Oh yeah, I'm hoping, man. It's there are a couple states that they've been to many places around the world, so there's a couple states that my wife hasn't been to, and hopefully we can design the route so that they get to experience that a little bit. And I'm assuming they're not going to be there for all the journey, but I'm hoping they can join me at points for sure.
Awesome. Well, they'd probably love to be there their entire time, because that would mean you wouldn't have to be in school, right? How awesome would that be as a kid? I'm just thinking about myself and my 15-year-old self, and what I probably would have quite liked. Mike, thank you so much for your time this morning or this evening for you. I really appreciate it. And look, you are very well, you're on Instagram all the time, and you were very approachable when I reached out to you, and you're very responsive. So thank you so much for that. Is Instagram the best place for people to sort of keep an eye on what you're doing?
Yeah, I'd say I'm on Instagram at Mike Wardian. That's MikeWard, like dog, IAN, and Twitter, and then it's the same handle on Twitter, and then I'm also on Facebook. So like, I know a lot of my friends in New Zealand prefer Facebook or seem to. So like, I'm Michael Wardian on Facebook, and I have like an athlete page, and so yeah, there's a way to just like that. I haven't gone to like TikTok yet or anything like that.
You're like most people over the age of 40 also haven't gone to TikTok. That's fine. We're not going to hold that against you. Mike, thanks so much. And I look forward to, seeing how you go.
All right. Well, thanks very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, team, hopefully you've enjoyed that as much as I did. So great following Mike on Instagram. What I love about it is that he takes all facets of his running, the strength training, the CrossFit stuff, the runs, and he just does it with such dedication, and you can see that he's just relishing in the fact that he's still able to do what he loves. And look, he's only a couple of years older than I am, and I feel like we share that same sort of passion for wanting to do it for as long as humanly possible. And I think that he's really got that in a really good mix of rest, recovery, strength and running for him to be able to do that. So don't forget that if you're interested in winning that pair of Hoka Rincon shoes, you need to tell me what the weight of the US 9 Rincon 3 shoe is, in addition to what Mike's first marathon was that he ran to qualify for Boston Marathon. Okay team, until next week, you can find me over on Facebook at Mikki Williden Nutrition, on Twitter and Instagram at Mikki Williden, and over on my website, mikkiwilliden.com, where you can sign up to my recipe portal access. I've just loaded up on there actually a new protein cereal, a black bean brownie, and a bunch of different salads, so that's pretty delish. You can sign up to one of my meal plans, such as my Fat Loss for Women, my Man Plan, or my Real Food Nutrition Plan. And with those, you get weekly meal plans, shopping lists, and the ability to ask me any questions through our online portal, or book in for a one-on-one consultation for more individualized advice. And next week on the podcast, I'm sitting down with one of my nutrition heroes, if you like, Professor Stu Phillips from McMaster University, who is an absolute protein guru. So absolutely look forward to that one. Until then though, you guys have a great week. Thanks for listening. Review this on your favorite podcast platform. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things that help get us visible and keep this podcast going. Thanks team. See you later.